So there's this really neat thing called fishing. I've been fishing ever since I was a little boy. There's simply no other place on Earth that's as relaxing as the open water. The sounds of crickets chirping act as the perfect song against the backdrop of lightly rippling water. At least, that's how I remember it back at my old Georgia home. I've come a long way from that little pond. I've seen all kinds of things. I've seen people's attitudes change with time, and yet they're always fighting with each other over different things, never wanting to believe one another's side to the story. I've seen time pass by, years, decades flashing right before my eyes. Despite all that I've seen, I will never forget that thing I saw one spring morning. I was supposed to be on break that day. I had taken time out of my schedule to travel back to that small river I loved as a kid. I figured I deserved it. On most days, I was one of the most important men in America. But today, I just wanted to be in my boat, away from all the evils of the world. That isn't what happened, though. I had been out on the water for several hours. I even remembered to bring my special fishing rod that I bought from an old man at a yard sale for $22.50. He said it was cursed. I say it's wicked. Usually I could be out on the water for 15 minutes and come back with about $136 worth of salmon and trout, but today, nothing seemed to be biting. I sighed, and then yawned, and then did the thing at the end of a yawn where you kinda sigh but not really, and I closed my eyes and leaned back, making sure to balance myself so that I didn't fall out of the boat. When I closed my eyes for that split second, that's when I heard the wind change. Its whistling grew ever so slightly louder, almost as if it caught wind of the fresh tuna sandwich in my lunchbox and turned to look at me with big puppy dog eyes. "Not today, wind," I said aloud, and I ripped the sandwich out of my bag and took a big, spiteful bite out of it. I chuckled devilishly to myself and began to chew, but something was off about the sandwich. I was used to how tuna tasted, and this wasn't it. The texture was off. It was tougher. Whatever was in my sandwich stuck to my teeth, but that wasn't all either. I could feel some sort of thick substance pooling in the bottom of my mouth. A little bit of it dribbled onto my pants. I bent down to look. It was red. Disgusted, I peeled open my sandwich to take a look. A brown, lumpy mass was sitting there atop a piece of crimson-stained bread. I felt sick. I knew it was a stomach on that sandwich, a real one, like the one that was inside of me, but on my sandwich. I had just eaten the disgusting thing and the red fluid coating it. I shuddered. Haggis and ketchup is not a good combo. I chucked the sandwich into the water beneath me. But just as the horrible meal disappeared beneath the rippling blue of the lake, I heard another splashing noise not far off in the distance. Curious, I sighed one more time for good measure and peeked over the edge of my boat. Nothing. I could see thin waves spreading out from the edge of the riverbank, but nothing that could have caused it. "Now's my chance," I said excitedly, realizing that I might finally be able to catch something. Soon I'll be able to make a proper tuna sandwich. I cast out my line. I was so excited I didn't even put bait on the end of it. And then I waited. Completely still. I sat there, the splintered creases of wood beneath me dug into my ass. And yet I still sat at attention. My steely gaze was locked on my rod, and as I gripped it tighter, the trickle of sweat rolled down the side of my face, hoping, against all hope, that my rod would bend. Though as I sat there, the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. The wind picked up even more. It almost seemed to be angry. It whipped through the leaves and tore them from the branches, scattering them all around me. Gulp in italics. Something about the way the leaves fell seemed to be warning me about something. I scanned the water. Only the same lily pads, tiny ripples, and mosquitoes. I couldn't quite catch anything, but I could swear I could see some movement out of the corner of my eye, but each jerk of my head was accompanied by a new sense of panic when I realized I couldn't see what was moving. My head was literally spinning, trying to catch whatever mysterious force was plaguing me. The wind roared in my ears to find it, find it, find it before that thing found me. Suddenly, my rod was pulled from my hands so hard that I had to stand up. I gasped for about 3 seconds. My beautiful fishing rod flew out into the water and sank away. Now, I was scared. My oar was to my right, but I didn't want to grab it for fear of what would happen if I looked away. Instead, I knelt down and wrapped my fingers over the edge of my boat. I stared at the water more closely. I dared not even blink. I stared for about 5 seconds. Then, clear as day, I could see a spot in the water begin to bubble. Algae and other icky stuff splashing about for a moment. Hallucinating, I told myself. I must be hallucinating. Rubbing my eyes, the bubbling was still going on. I blinked several times. It only ceased when the water seemed to spit out this grotesque creature. It was just as disgusting as my haggis and ketchup sandwich, but not quite as disgusting as the concept of ranch. The closest thing I could compare it to was a rabbit. And ranch. It had the same color, and I imagined the same texture as both of those things, plus 2 impossibly long ears that seemed to stretch for miles. Its face was what really disturbed me, however. Its features, eyes, nose, mouth, teeth, all seemed garbled into a mass of oozing blobs. It made a sound akin to a chainsaw revving up underwater as its head pulsated. Its frail body was covered in a red substance that I knew was not ketchup, but despite being submerged in water, the stains didn't wash away. I thought about reaching into my lunchbox and pulling out the gun I had hidden in there, but it had only 29 bullets inside it, so I knew it would be of no use against this monstrosity. Instead, I picked up my oar and drove it into the water. I frantically splashed at the creature, trying to get it to move. It swam towards me slowly, but fast enough that my heart interpreted it as a threat and started pumping equally as fast. It hissed at me. It was a sound even more horrendous than any I ever heard. I intensified my assault, and in response, the creature adjusted its course and swam away into the distance. I watched it leave despite my eyes screaming at me not to. It almost looked to be in pain. Its paws thrashed about in the water. It didn't know how to swim, somehow. I almost felt bad for it. But in the end, I decided I didn't because it was just so ugly. But I was still scared. So after another sigh, I snatched my lunchbox and jumped out of the boat onto dry land and ran away as fast as I could. I wasn't out of the woods just yet. I was far from the safety of my house, away from the creature. I wondered if the creature was just playing up its weakened image. It could be chasing after me, but I didn't dare look back, lest I have to try in vain to shoot it. I may be an American, but there are times when guns are just not the answer. I ran very fast for about 30 seconds, not even caring that my head smacked against several branches in my path. When I was out of breath, I found myself in a clearing. I was exerting myself so much that my vision was growing hazy, pixelated even, like an Atari 2600 game. I tried to think about that one game with the alien to calm my nerves. At least the developers of that game were in more hot water than I was right now, because I was on land now. And it was then that I realized I was also under a spotlight. It took only about 3 seconds for me to cover my eyes and look up at it. 2 masses of white were descending from the sky. They had the same ugly faces as the fake rabbit, but they were much larger and rounder. These creatures had no arms or legs, but when they descended to the ground, they lugged their massive bodies towards me with surprising speed. They dragged their massive bunny ears behind them. I struggled to catch my breath. All I could hear was their booming chuckles emanating throughout the clearing. Who are you? I stammered, hacking up a lung.
That is none of your concern,
it answered.
Are you the one who noticed our pet?
Their pet? Did they mean the rabbit thing? What are you things? I questioned.
So, I see the integration experiment was successful. Alert the others. This planet will serve our needs well,
the bigger of the two said. It inched over to me. Oh my god, the stench! Instantly my head began to pound and I retched at the thing. For 2 seconds I was sure I was going to throw up.
As for you,
the thing's voice was loud in my ear.
You will be the only one who can know of our existence. You will know not what we do, only that we are here.
What are you going to do?
You cannot know too much.
Please, leave us alone. I'll get our military searching for you. You will not hurt our people. I was just stalling. I may have sounded scared then, but in reality, I was brave because I was stalling. My fingers were digging into my lunch bag for the gun, but very subtly, because I'm cool like that.
Who will believe you? You can tell them whatever you wish, but it's no use. And it's of no use shooting me with that dinky little toy of yours.
Startled at being caught, I ripped my gun from the lunchbox and shot the blobs 29 times, squeezing the trigger until I heard nothing but a faint click of emptiness. The blobs' faces, if they could even be called that, were now littered with freshly pierced holes. Their grotesque faces further morphed into something far more dastardly, a mixture of matted fur and torn pieces of still bubbling skin fixed to a slab of emerald slime. A mess of green, oozing fluid spilling out onto the grass and my clothes. Despite this image, the figures still laughed. Nothing I had done had any effect on them. I trembled in fear and dropped my weapon.
That's right. I doubt anybody else could do better.
I was so confused that I was locked in a cycle of hyperventilating, vomiting, and drifting in and out of consciousness every few milliseconds. All I could see was the green blood everywhere, and there was green blood on my shirt and green blood in the ground, even green blood inside my mouth, and they were laughing at me. I couldn't think of anything else to do, so I fainted. They were right. Nobody believed me. I was found a few hours later and escorted back to the White House. People questioned me, and I tried to tell them the truth. I tried to tell them that the rabbit attacked me, and that I saw some phenomena in the sky. I tried to point out the stains on my clothes. Stains that were no longer there. My clothes were clean. My gun had been fully unloaded and my haggis sandwich gone, but the most disgusting part was also gone. I couldn't even fathom how something like this could have happened. I was being gaslit by God. I know those creatures lurk among us. I'm the only one who knows that they're out there. I can only hope that one day, someone will find these creatures. The ones from the spotlight, the one in the river, anything. Anyone to prove I was right. To keep the people safe. I have stayed alive far beyond my years. I have lived longer than any other president before me, all in the hope that I may see whatever those things are fall. But I realize that that time is drawing to a close. I will fight to stay here until my last breath. I see it as my way of fighting them. They may be doing whatever they want here on Earth, but they're not hidden. Not from me. Someday, I can only hope. Someday. Thank you very much to my friend XX America, founded in 177666XX, for writing this story and posting it onto the Creepypasta wiki. To Charles Unicorn is Jesus for reposting this story to Reddit, and to Glump for suggesting it to me and claiming to write it himself. I hope you all enjoyed the story. I thought it would be nice to cover this story as it's the beginning of Spooky Month. It's also Jimmy Carter's 100th birthday, so that's cool. Happy birthday, you beautiful, beautiful man. If you have any more creepypastas you'd like me to read, be sure to carve the title of it into a piece of bark and drop it in a dumpster outside Panera by next Thursday so I can see. Or just comment down below. Good day!